don't want that, so I won't do it. Then you are not their ally. Let's look at the board. Boards of directors are held accountable for organizational performance, even though not involved in the day-to-day management. Internal auditors are therefore often seen in the eyes and as the eyes and ears of the board, right? Board members like internal auditors because they're seen as their eyes and ears. And what then happens is that we sometimes, as internal auditors, tend to forget the other stakeholders and focus largely on the board, especially also because the board members are seen as the ultimate decision makers. This may sometimes generate tensions between the internal auditors and the chief executive, for instance. The mode of communication of the concerns of the internal auditor to the board may therefore enhance management cooperation or lead to dysfunction. Effectiveness of the role of the auditor in communicating with the board can abate the potential tensions that I have described. It can also ensure that the board is not expecting the internal auditor to exceed its bounds in relation to the CEO and other management staff or even staff. So you have to use effective communication to position yourself in the organization in a manner that you are an ally to the manager, you are the eyes and ears of the board, and you are the facilitator of productivity and performance to the staff member. You have to learn the interests of the different stakeholders to be able to engage them with the same message for you to achieve the value and protection that you are expected to bring. Investors and shareholders. The confidence and investors of shareholders and investors in a corporate organization is likely to be elevated on account of an effective internal audit system. So when due diligence is being done about an organization that is looking for investment, that will enhance the role of management, that will give staff better pay, it is the work of internal auditors that sometimes they look to. Because internal audit helps to sustain the continued commitment of these important stakeholders, investors, shareholders, etc. Communicating the credibility of the internal audit function is essential for maintaining the financial standing of the organization, which is critical for there to be an organization at all. Without credibility, there's no organization. So an internal auditor's role is fundamental to the existence and the survival of any organization. I always tell people, when you dress up and you're going out and your collar is in the wrong direction or your colors don't match, it is better to have a home internal auditor, a domestic internal auditor to tell you, or fashion police to tell you that you don't look good, your shoes don't match your dress, rather than to go out there for other people to see. So these are some of the messages we have to communicate to our internal stakeholders, and also to project to external stakeholders, for them to see that we check ourselves. and we are a credible organization. And based on that, we are respected. So I would want to say that my comments on how communication can help in aligning the internal auditor's role with the various perspectives of stakeholders have expressed in summary terms how communication can be used to help forge the alignment. I pause here to find out, are you with me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will continue. Now, I would like to spend a little more time explaining what stakeholder management and communication are. This is particularly because there are also misconceptions about the communication profession too. In fact, you go to a lot of organizations and the people there are not trained professional communication people. Why? Because for some, all human beings communicate. And as we talk to each other all the time, there's no need for lessons in communication from someone with professional credentials. After all, I can write. After all, I can speak. So I want us to look at communication. Again, let's look at stakeholder management. I've been told I have 10 minutes. There's a lot to talk about, but I'll try and wrap up. Stakeholder management involves identifying your stakeholders, analyzing them, mapping them, and developing approaches for managing relationships with them. As I said before, it involves, among others, providing them appropriate information, building and maintaining among them appropriate reputation, as well as managing relationships with them. In addressing communication, I shall look at how we achieve these in the internal audit function. So one, what really is communication? Can somebody type in the chat what communication is? What is communication? I like my sessions to be interactive. That's why it's taking a little bit. What is communication, please? What is communication? A two-way method of sharing information. Good. Transmitting information to one another, to another person. Oh, I've been given an extra 15 minutes. Thank you. You know, for a lot of us, when we transmit information, it is communication. It is only an aspect of communication, a two-way method of sharing information. When we share information, it is communication. It is only an aspect of communication. Today, I want to share with you that communication is the sharing of information for mutual understanding. Somebody has said using appropriate channels to share information to a targeted group for impact. Yes, I like the for impact. Mutual understanding is when what your understanding, the other person's understanding of your understanding of what you said is the same as what you said. And that is why I keep pausing to ask, have you understood? But very often, professionals, when we have been trained in our profession, we tend to understand our profession and assume that everybody else should have. So one internal auditor can tell another internal auditor, they didn't retire the interest. And I'm querying that, and they don't understand. They don't understand because they took an interest to go and do work. There is evidence that the work has been done. You can see. In fact, the person has been given an award for the work that was done. Why are you now querying the person? They don't understand that it has to be retired. The impress has to be retired. When I went, the impress was for transport. But when I went, we needed stationery. So I bought stationery too. And it is the stationery that I used for the work for which I was awarded. They don't understand that you can't vary what you took impressed for. So it is important that we try to, so when people misunderstand us, we should try to understand why they have misunderstood us. That helps us to put our message out better. So communication is a process of information sharing for mutual understanding. It starts with the other. I always tell people that effective communication starts and ends with the other. So you start by trying to understand their understanding of internal audit. That will let you see the mirror through which they will hear you, or the voice through which they will hear you. Then when you do that and you know the goal that you have, you then are able to couch your message in a manner that resonates with them and helps you to realize your goal as well. That is why you need to know your audience. The board, the interest of the board is different from the interest of management, etc. Then you have to locate them in their context. Maybe I remember doing a project for a client where we had to do big events in a rural community engagement. And we had to give water when the people came. And we had to submit receipts for the water that was. And from the context, in a very rural community, they hadn't, and some of the field workers didn't know anything about certificate of honor. And my finance staff were really upset with them. And I said, you have to look at the context in which they are operating and go back into your professional know-how and come up with systems that are relevant to the context in which they are operating. Their needs, their priorities, their expectations, the mindset of the audience, their emotions, and their information needs, and how they can get access to information. You need to analyze all these among your stakeholders to be able to achieve the value and protection you want among them. Once you have done that, then you should be able to formulate your message. Formulate your message based on an analysis of your objectives, on an analysis of yourself. How am I seen? Who are the people who are seeing me? What are their needs? Once you have done all this, then you can do a message. Oh, Miss Cynthia, today I have come to you to discuss with you ways of working financially that will make us profitable and possibly even help us to get what we get at the end of the year, with the bonus at the end of the year. They hear bonus and they're interpreting everything you're saying in the context of a bonus. So you are an ally. You are not a policewoman, a policewoman or a man. Deliver a message that resonates with the stakeholder and contributes to the realization of your goal. I want to highlight